range, it should have been able to hit us with ease. As I hit it wasn't trying to kill us. It didn't even hit Nigel.
Ma'am, we've contacted base to provide further information. We should hear back from them soon.
Do you have any idea what I had to do to get those scouts here? It was your gold moment out there. There's a car at the end of the street. We should try and commandeer it. Right, we know what we're up against. All corridors and air conduits to be locked down. We need to get rid of anything and anywhere that thing can hole up. I'll get the weapons. Everyone goes armed.
You are listening to the Late Bloomer Actor podcast with David John Clark.
Welcome back to episode 2 of season 2, folks. And today I'm really excited to reach out to the other side of the world, the United Kingdom, London, to be interviewing actor, podcast host, and dreamer, according to his bio, Mr. Danny Barton. Good evening, Danny. Or it's just hit afternoon for you, really, isn't it?
Well, it's still morning, so I've got an hour until it's afternoon. So good morning, good evening, hello.
It's the joys of doing over the internet, isn't it? It's just trying to work out the time difference is the hardest thing. So I find UK time is so much harder than US time because it's just completely opposite to us. So
yeah.
Now, just confirm for me: are you actually in London, or are you outside of London somewhere?
No, I'm in London. I'm in Zone 1. I'm very close. I'm about half an hour walk into the city centre. I can see the Shard from my bedroom window and St Paul's Cathedral. So I'm very close to the city.
Awesome. And for my listeners, Danny's just recently moved to the UK, or moved back to the UK, which we'll surely discuss to further his acting career. But firstly, some introductions on how we met. We met through our training in stagemilk.com, if that's correct, isn't it, Danny?
That is correct.
As well as being an avid listener, I was an avid listener of your podcast, Actors Making It, where I was fortunate to be a guest back in 2022. I'll throw a link in the show notes for that, so anyone that hasn't had the chance to listen to it can listen to it. And I'm sure we'll be talking about that soon. But firstly, I don't know a lot about your background, Danny, other than what I can find on the interwebs, as they say. So could you give us a brief history of Danny Barton and how your journey brought you to where you are today?
Sure. I think I'm assuming this question is acting related. But yes, my journey of where I am today, I've always been kind of interested in theatre and performance since a very young age. And I don't know why. I don't know why that is. I just was. I wanted to be an actor. I think maybe once upon a time when I was a kid, I wanted to be famous and have the name in lights like many young actors do. But I kind of did some theatre in my younger years, or did some like school production stuff. I had a drama teacher, Wendy, cannot for the life of me remember her surname. But I did some stuff with her, and I moved around. Sorry, I'm not very good at being succinct, so I apologize in advance.
Love it.
I moved around a lot as a kid. My mum moved around a lot, so every 6 months I was like in a new school trying to meet new people. And because I moved so much, I kind of kept to myself and always felt like the person that was not really spoken to or didn't make friends or not seen. And the first time I did some performance, it was the first time I ever felt seen, because people were watching me and applauding me. And then that's kind of how I kind of got into acting, because, yeah, as I say, it was just all of a sudden I was somebody that people were looking at, which was kind of new to me. I am from Australia originally. I was born in Brisbane, moved all up and down the Queensland coast, and then moved to Manchester when I was 18 years old. My family are from there, with the dream of kind of acting. But at the time, I didn't really know what it took to become an actor. I got a job in a call center and I got an agent, and they kept giving me auditions, and I kept declining them because I had work the next day. But because I worked for RAC Breakdown, and if you take a day off, they really lay it on thick that you're letting the world down if you take a day off, because it has a massive impact on the people broken down on the side of the road. Anyway, so my agent ended up dropping me after a while. Started a performing arts degree, but yeah, I tried to do it over there, but it wasn't really successful. I had a friend that I'd made who was one of the writers for a well-known show over here called Hollyoaks. And then I asked him what I needed to do to become an actor, and he basically said, "You'll never be an actor. You're too big to be an actor. You could make good money as an extra, being a police officer or a bouncer or something like that, but you'll never be an actor. Give up on the dream." And that kind of stopped me for quite a while.
When you say big, what do you mean? How tall are you?
I'm only 5'11", but I'm a stocky guy. So okay. I mean, I've never been like obesely fat or anything like that.
No, that's what I was thinking. No.
I'm a big guy. I mean, when you meet a lot of celebrities, they're all quite small, so I kind of understand it now. But yeah, that stopped me in my tracks for a while. Anyway, eventually moved back to Sydney. To Australia. Didn't do anything for a long time, but I went to the theatre a lot. But I would always get really excited when I went to see a musical or a play, and not because of necessarily what I was seeing, but because I was imagining myself in that situation, like how excited I would be or how great I would be if I was the one on stage. And my boyfriend at the time, after so many times of getting excited, it's like, I don't understand why you're not working in this industry if this is what you love. And that was around about 2017. And
how old would you have been then, if that's not giving away your age, etc.?
I'm happy to give away my age. I'll be 40. I'll be 40 in July. So how many years ago was 17?
Oh, geez, that's
5 years ago. So I was 35, 35-ish.
Yeah.
And that was when I was like, yeah, can I swear on your podcast?
Of course you can. Of course you can.
Fucking, you're right. Why am I not fucking doing this? And that's when I changed careers out of working permanently in recruitment to working as a contractor. So I had more flexibility. Did my first short film, went to Screenwise part-time to do Screenwise is if you've not heard of Screenwise is a screen acting school in Sydney, which I will not talk anymore about.
But it's essentially a small, like Taft or like a state-based education. So not an IDA, but just a smaller educational thing, isn't it?
But I did that, and then I started getting into acting again and putting a real kind of pedal to the metal as far as my acting career is concerned. And then I've been working full time for the last 5 years and managing a podcast and classes and acting to where I am now. But I kind of reached a point I feel that I'd reached a point in Australia where I don't think I was going to go any further. And I don't know if that is just because of my own belief of Australia as a region, as far as acting is concerned. I have been a bald, shaved head man for the best part of a decade. I never got any auditions for anything that wasn't a tradie or a labourer from casting directors in Sydney. So for me, it was like, well, you're only getting me in for these auditions. They don't come up very often. I mean, I always wanted to come back to the UK anyway, but I wanted to come back over here where it's, I guess, more opportunity. And there is. I think in the last 12 months in Sydney, I had 5 auditions through casting and didn't book anything. And I've been in London 4 months, and in the last 3 months, I've had 16 auditions, booked a feature, and booked a short film.
That's interesting, isn't it?
Not a tradie or labourer in sight, I might add.
I love it, and that really brings down a lot of discussion points that I had to come up about acting per se, because especially look, from my perspective as a late bloomer, and we discussed on your podcast that you inverted quotes thought, I'm a late bloomer as well, and it probably fits the profile. We always tend to think, well, maybe I'm not getting work because I'm not experienced. In Australia, it's a little bit different because it's such a smaller market, yet there's so many good actors out there. And then COVID hit, and so a lot of those big actors who were just going for the bigger roles started stepping down a bit and taking the 20-worders because they were desperate for work. So that just made it even harder in that period, don't you think?
Yeah. Well, I mean, definitely. I don't think, yes, there is that. And I don't want to sit here and be negative about the Australian industry because, I mean, I've spoken about it plenty of times on my podcast about how I feel about the region. But there isn't enough opportunity in Australia to support Australian talent. I think there's another podcast which you may listen to, Don't Be So Dramatic, with Rachel, and she interviewed somebody who made a comment that in Australia there are only 40 feature films made a year. 40. That's not a lot.
No, I would have thought it'd be more than that, but.
And, you know, a lot of the big films that come over from the US and the UK, you know, I think the Australian government touts all of this great stuff for the arts about how we're attracting all of these big productions to come to Australia and produce work, but they all bring their own actors. It's great for the crew side, but from an acting perspective, they bring all of the big actors, and then it is the well-known Aussie actors that get put into the smaller parts roles that come up. So yeah.
All right then. Well, let's look at the positive part then, that you've now moved to the UK. So you've just said before you've done quite a few auditions and landed a role as well. So just let us know what do you see the difference in the area there? How are you? What's the feel like compared to Australia in a way? Just sticking with the positive side of things, of course.
Of course. Look, I think, to be completely honest, I mean, I've been here coming up to 4 months. I probably haven't immersed myself into the industry too heavily yet. As I said, I've been working so hard for the last 5 years. I probably suffered from a lot of burnout. So for the last 4 months, I've been relaxing and not working and just kind of taking it easy. I finally start a acting class tomorrow, like a weekly scene class, which will be good to get back into it. But I did go to a Christmas party for like an acting thing here called Mixing Networks at Christmas, and met, you know, a bunch of actors there. And
nice.
And interestingly, you know, the feelings that we all have as actors of, I'm not getting auditions, I'm not getting enough work, it must be something wrong with me. It's universal. It's wherever you go. So, I mean, the feeling is, by reading all of the people that I'm connected to on Twitter and all of the actors here and speaking to friends, is I'm not getting auditions, I'm not getting enough work. It's effectively the same as what it was in Australia. It's just that there is a bigger pool of opportunity, but there's also a bigger pool of actors here.
Yes.
And I think when it comes to acting, it's a numbers game. You're never going to get every role you audition for, unless, of course, you're a big name where they've written the part for you. But I think, as I said, it's a numbers game, and I have more my options, or my opportunity for being cast is higher here, just because I'm able to push through more auditions than what I am in Australia.
And I suppose you're more open to doing more auditions because you can't go to the beach because it's too damn cold.
I do enjoy the cold, though.
Oh, that's good. I think England would have to be my last choice because I just hate the cold. But that sort of leads a little bit into, so why the UK and not the American path, the LA path that so many people do?
Well, that's a very easy question to answer. I have a British passport.
Sold.
So I didn't have to worry about any of the visa requirements or any of that to go to the US. And to be honest with you, I know that I have a better look for the UK. Okay. As much as we probably don't want to admit it, a lot of acting, a lot of the industry comes down to appearance, and it's probably changing a little bit as we move on. But I think the UK are very good at casting real-looking people in their projects compared to America and Australia. So I think I think I look better. I think my look is better for a UK market.
Oh, that's good. And long term, I suppose that if you've got your career aspirations now in the UK market, if you can start climbing that ladder and getting those credits and getting that prestige, for want of a better word, then the US market may reach out to you.
Well, exactly. I mean, I did. I interviewed somebody on my podcast last year who has been working predominantly in Australia, and he had US agents reach out to him, and now he's looking at moving to LA because they've found him and reached out to him. So awesome. All right, and you mentioned your podcast a couple of times there, and so sorry.
I do want to talk.
I know this is your podcast.
No, because we did it on yours as well, but podcasts are made, especially by actors. They're there for a certain reason. There's certain things that we talk about, and there's a reason why we make it. And your podcast, Actors Making It, you could probably read a lot into the name of that, but I think there's a lot more to just actors making it than you might see, which is great, which I want to talk about. But it's a show that addresses a lot of your journey around acting and the reason why you put it together. And I was reading an article from Filmic magazine where they discuss the reasons you put the show together. It was to reach out to other actors to discuss their experiences and their struggles and their hurdles of the acting journey. Can you talk about that a little bit? What have you learnt along your journey that you're now sharing and bringing out in your podcast, and why do you want to do that?
Yeah, I think if I rewind to what I was saying before about when I first moved to Manchester to be an actor, I didn't understand, or I didn't know at that point in my life what it took to be an actor. And what I mean by that is you can't just wake up one day and say, oh, I'm going to be an actor. Sure, there's loads of articles about overnight success and, blah, blah, blah. I think even Margot Robbie, when she first did I quote this story all the time, but I think Margot Robbie, she did a big film. I can't remember what it was. It was either The Big Short or the one with Leonardo DiCaprio, and everything was like overnight sensation. Margot Robbie's like, well, she's not a fucking overnight sensation. She did all these years on Neighbours. She's been working for the last decade, auditioning like crazy, eating ramen noodles probably, and starving herself to be able to get to where she is, to have that big break. And I don't think a lot of people understand that there's a lot of sacrifice when it comes to trying to make it as an actor. I've spent way more money trying to become an actor than I've made from being an actor. And that's
I know that one.
Yeah, and I think that's the reality that people don't really understand. On top of what do you have to do to become an actor, which is, you might have to decide one day, oh shit, I've got an audition tomorrow, or I've got a job tomorrow, but I've got a shift at the RAC. What am I going to do? You have to make the decision of, okay, is my acting career more important than the job? Is the potential of earning money from an acting gig more important than my actual job that I'm going to be paid for tomorrow to do my job? And those are the sacrifices and the decisions that you have to make as an actor, and you need to be prepared to make them, and that's hard. So there's that element of it, and I think that's, when I said before, my partner was like, I don't understand why you're not doing this, and I worked in a permanent job, and I know that you're in the same position. You're in a permanent job, and I know so many friends that are in permanent jobs and they want to be an actor and they go to all of the acting classes, but they don't have the luxury or the time to be able to go to an audition or shoot a student film in the middle of the week because they've got a job and they can't not go to their job. And I made the decision 5 years ago, or 6 years ago now, to go, right, acting is what my priority is, and acting is what I will always put first. So if I got a job or if I got an audition, then I would take the time off work and I would do it. And admittedly, I worked as a contractor, which means I don't get paid if I don't work the day. I don't have to apply for leave. I take the time. But I looked at what I could do to make that available to me. I've worked on, and also in this vein of, why I made it is it's such a shit industry in the fact that you have to pay your dues before you get to a point of actually earning money. The amount of work that I've done for free. Now, I get paid really well for my corporate career. I like in Australia, I was earning $900 a day plus super to do my job. But I would not do a day's work and lose effectively $1,000 to go and work on an unpaid film, so that I would have some footage and I would do that. I would do it. And that's the reality of acting, unfortunately. The other reason why I wanted to do the podcast is because we're all everybody can say that they're not selfish, and in a holistic way, people don't mean to be selfish, but it's very natural for people to be insular in their thought process when something happens. So if you audition for something and you don't get it, or if you don't get an audition for something, it's very easy to make that about yourself and be like, oh, it must be me. I must not look good. I'm bald, so they don't want me, or I'm fat, or, it's very easy to make it about yourself. But the reality is, it's got nothing to fucking do with you. There's so many other things that are involved in the decision making of a part, whether or not it's, we've actually hired a black girl to play the daughter, so therefore you might not work as the father. But we can internalize that and make it about ourselves, and head down this really destructive, negative self-talk direction. And the mental health aspect, or the mental health effects of this industry is very high. And that's the other stuff that I want to kind of talk. That's the other stuff that I really like to talk about on my podcast, so that people can be like, oh, it's not just me. Okay, it's not me. I'm not the reason. Okay, maybe I just need to keep going. And I do it. I still do it. Even though I tout it, I'll be like, well, I'm not getting auditions because I'm bald. Yeah. I just look like a tradie. I didn't believe myself, so therefore I'm a bad actor. Like, I still do it now. Like, I know ultimately it's not about me, but I'm still guilty of sometimes internalizing and making it about myself. So I like to kind of talk about people's experiences around that, and how they cope, and what they do to kind of keep motivated and push themselves through.
And I think that's a good thing, because I did the end of season special on my podcast last year and talked about some of the biggest points that came up during the year, and mental health factors was one of the biggest discussion points, which was really interesting. And it's great to be able to let actors know that when you're feeling like this, we're all feeling like this, and this is why you're feeling it, and you actually might be feeling it the wrong way, if that's an easier way to say it, sort of thing. Because I put a post on recently for an audition I did for The Stranger with Joel Edgerton, and I posted the picture of myself and the picture of the actor that got it, and we could almost be brothers. He was a bit older and a bit more weathered, which is what I expected they would have gone for the role, and they did. Besides the fact that he was a higher on the echelon in actors, so that's what producers are looking for. So that's what actors need to realise. And there was a young girl that auditioned here in was it here in Adelaide, or was it a Greg Apps audition? I can't remember. I remember someone telling me the journey that this girl went on. She did 3 or 4 callbacks, and it looked like it was in their bag. And then it boiled down to the mum had different. The mum, the actress who was playing the mother, had her eye colour was so different to hers. They said, we can't. We've got to go with the other actress who's got the same eye colour. So she didn't get the role because of her eye colour. And, it broke her heart, and she didn't understand that. And I suppose a lot of the things
they could have put contacts on her, but I get it.
Yeah, that's true. And I think the other thing is that a lot of actors don't find out those reasons, and they could be just those small reasons. I was chatting to a lady.
That's just it. The other part is, like, if you think about a professional career, if you go for an interview, you get you don't always get great feedback, but you will get feedback saying, hey, we've gone with this person because of this reason, or you've not been selected because you didn't quite meet this criteria. In acting, if you've gone for an audition, you just don't fucking hear anything. And then you sat there going, well, what did I do wrong? It must have been me. I must be fat. I must be whatever, I must be a shit actor. So there's no validation that you were good and that they liked what they saw. So you have to be so resilient in this industry.
And you walk out going, oh, well, I have to go and do another course, or maybe I should go and do a 3-year degree, or okay, I can't do a 3-year degree because of my career, but maybe I'll go and do a 6-month undergrad degree, and then that can't work because you can't afford it or you can't make it balance. But these are all the things that go through, and you just need to keep pushing on and eventually get there. And I like what you said, that I've heard the story before. A lot of actors have said, if you want to be an actor, you've got to do it 100%. So
I don't believe that. I do not subscribe to that. And I know that I think Andrew at Stage Milk is a big advocate for that particular statement. And I do not believe that at all, because the reality is you're not making enough money to fucking live. Like, unless you have a family that are prepared to support you, you've won a lottery, or you've saved for a decade to be able to take time off and do it, it is impossible to just make acting your only thing. Because if you're not, then you're working in a bar or in a restaurant at minimum wage to be able to follow your dream. I do not subscribe to that at all. I mean, sure, I'm not like Matt Damon or anything yet, but I managed to work full time and take time off and do gigs and whatever. And I start a full-time job in a week here. And I fully intend to do the same.
To make it work.
So the reality is, if you want something bad enough, no matter what your situation is, you will make it work.
You'll find a way.
Exactly.
In Jurassic Park, nature will find a way. And I do that. I've been told a lot, but, David, you can't commit. You've got a full-time job. But I'm very fortunate because I work shifts. And in the 7 years that I've been doing this full-on focused, I've always found a way. And I've never turned down an audition. I've requested a couple to be changed in times, but I've pretty much met it. I've done my student films. I've done the film. So I think it comes down to Greg Apps said when I interviewed him, you've got to have a plan B and make that plan B work. So then you're still doing your acting and find something that works for you. So you can do it. You don't have to be 100% now. Now, my son's just about to, he's doing year 12 and he wants to go down the acting path. So he's got that small window now where, okay, he's going to go and do the university and we'll support him and he's got that freedom there. But I'm already putting in his head, I said, you need to start planning your plan B. What do you want to do to feed yourself and pay your bills until you get that big role? Which will hopefully happen sooner than later. So it can be done no matter what time frame in life you're running this journey at, can't you?
Exactly.
Now that sort of alludes to training. What training have you had? Have you had that formal training? You're a bit like me where you've just done I know you said you started at university. So how much did you get there?
I started a performing arts degree, a Bachelor of Performing Arts at Salford University in Manchester in 2006. I got a year and a half into it. I hated every moment of it. But I think that's because it was the wrong degree. It wasn't an acting degree. It was a performing arts degree. And I'm not really a great studier. I don't like studying. I hate all of the theory stuff. Like, I mean, I couldn't give a flying fuck why Brecht wrote what he wrote 20 million years ago. Like, I don't care. I just enjoy making something my own and creating from the page. So all of that, it wasn't for me. I've not had formal training. But I have been doing some kind of acting in some way since I was a kid. So, you learn. I can't on the job training. I've learned on the job. Yeah, I think I can't remember. I think it was some Greek person. I don't want to misquote the name, but there's a quote that I love, which is "Experience is the teacher of all things," and that's kind of how I live my life. Even my professional career, I've never had formal training. Like, I've done certifications, but I've never had formal training in what I do for a professional career. I didn't go to university for that, but I'm earning plenty of money doing it and managing fine, and I'm good at it because I've got the experience now. But yeah, I've done bits and pieces. I think I've done, as I said, I did Screenwise for 2 years. It was a showreel course. It was a waste of $10,000, to be completely honest with you. I got a showreel out of it. That got me an agent. And then he said, okay, do some self-tapes because this isn't good enough. So
I hear a lot about the showreel courses, and it's not just one company. There's a lot of companies that offer them, and a lot of the casting directors say, "Don't do it. Don't waste your money.
It's a waste of money. It is a waste of money."
Go and do your self tapes. Do Stage Milk or do Greg App's course.
Yeah.
Get some experience behind the camera, and then just film something.
Yeah,
and you're done. Show your acting ability.
I think so I've done I've done different things. I've done Anthony Mindel courses, classes, but the thing that I've found the most helpful really is just doing a weekly scene jam with I've done Scene on Screen with Maha Wilson, and I've done Sydney Actors Association with Sam Haft and Sydney. And those are the things that I recommend that me as an actor have helped me. It's like acting gym. It's just keeping the muscle warm and working on it. I think, what I learned, the main thing that Screenwise tutors, who are all actors that are who are basically teaching at Screenwise to make some cash between acting gigs, they all basically just taught us their way of breaking down a script. There are so many different methods. There are so many different tools. I think when it comes to acting, some people can just do it naturally and interpret something, and that just comes across. But I think a lot with acting, it's just finding the different tools for your toolbox that work for you. And some scripts, some jobs, you won't need to access the tools. You'll just read it like, I know who this is. I know what this is. I can do it. And then there are other parts where you like, okay, I really need to fucking spend the time preparing for this. And I think a lot of actors put so much pressure on themselves in the preparation, whether it's for an audition or for a scene. And then when they're sitting in these classes, like, oh, I need to make sure I'm doing it perfect, and that they believe everything that I'm doing, and we put so much pressure on ourselves. But there's no right or wrong way to act. It's acting. All acting is just, do I believe what you're telling me?
I love that. That's, you look for something when you do an interview with someone about just one thing that just resonates so much, and that's brilliant. Just if actors can take away one thing from this interview, that would probably be it, I think. And you sort of leaned a little bit in there about doing your show reels or doing extra work, and you've recently moved to the other side of the camera to make your own work, and stuck with the lead role, I believe, but also directed your own short film.
I wasn't getting on any auditions, so I wrote something for myself.
and that's what they say to do. And so the short film's called Ghosted. Is that correct?
Correct. That is correct.
And I believe it's all completed and doing the round of the festivals at the moment. So can you let us know how did that develop and why, obviously, to make your own work? And did it come from something in your life, or you've written it yourself? What's the background behind that, and where's it going at the moment?
This is a really interesting story, actually. Well, I think it's an interesting story.
I'm sure it is.
So I'm good. It will be a long story, so I apologize. We're on half an hour, so we'll see how long it goes. Okay, so I'm going to take some steps back. I am, if you didn't already guess, given some things that I've said, I'm a gay man who, for a very long time, believed that I needed to show straight characters and not be out in the acting world, and show through my work that I can believably play a heterosexual man so that I will get cast and make it, quote unquote, as an actor. So I'll give that statement for a while. I wrote, when I was at Screenwise, there was a beautiful actress in the class who was Indian. And one of the things that they say when you're doing Screenwise, when we get to the end of the show reel, they're like, okay, we need you to find a scene it has to be Australian work because, you're auditioning in Australia, so we need to see Australian stuff. It's just better for you. Anyway, she was an Indian girl. She couldn't find anything for her because, there wasn't at the time a lot of diversity on screen, especially for Indian characters. So I wrote her a scene, which was about, it was a little scene basically about, she was at a speed date and she was having a date with this guy, and he had remembered her, and he was asking her why she didn't why she never called. She basically ghosted him. And as it goes on, this is going to spoil the ending of my short film, but it doesn't matter. As it goes on, she basically goes along with it, going, "Oh, I clearly don't remember this guy, but I don't want to make him feel bad, so I'll just try and change the situation." Anyway, turns out he had a date with her twin sister, not with her. And that was kind of the ending. Anyway, after that, she never used it for her show reel. After that, I thought, okay, I want to write I'm going to turn this into a short film. And I wanted to turn it into a short film, but as obviously playing the guy that went on a date with the girl, and I was going to write it as a standard heterosexual story. But this is back in 2018. And I just couldn't, I knew what I wanted to do, but I couldn't write anything, and it just wouldn't come to me. In 2020, I think it was, or 2021, I had a conversation with a great guy, George Constant, I think his surname is, and he does a lot of work around playing for your type. And he had a conversation with me, and he's like, are you gay? And I'm like, yeah. And he goes, I don't see any of that in your show reels. Like, your show reel's good, but I just don't see any authenticity about who you are, because all the characters in your show reel, because of the way people see me as a big bald head man, were all quite, not aggressive, but like, the abuser type. Right. So that's the sort of stuff that I was getting hired for in short films with students, etc. Anyway, he was like, you need to do this type of work. And I was like, okay, great. And then I was like, fuck it, I'm going to turn my short film into an LGBT story, which I did. Sorry, there's a very long-winded story.
I love it.
And then, so I wrote it. The words finally flooded to me, and I was able to write something which I'm really, really proud of. And I'm also really proud of the fact that out of a cast and crew of 28 people, all bar 2 were part of the LGBT community. So from the cast and crew. But yeah, it was a really rewarding experience.
That's awesome.
Yeah, I loved it. It was frustrating, and it was, exhausting and stressful, but one of the most rewarding things I've ever done. I enjoy directing, and bringing something to life. I don't know, just seeing something. It's such a different ball game, because when you're an actor, you get your script and you turn up on set and you sit in the back room and you go over your lines and you're freaking out about, how am I going to deal with this line? How am I going to deal with this word? And then you go in, and then they're like, all right, we're ready for you. And then you come out, and then you do your thing, and then everybody claps because you're done, and you go home. But to be involved in something from concept all the way through to editing and trying to fucking figure out sound design. I didn't even know sound design was a thing. I just thought, like, you chose some music and put it in, and the director of the SF3 Film Festival, which is what I created it for in the first, I was just like, so if you've got a sound designer and a composer lined up, I'm like, what the fuck are they?
Oh, jeez. Oh, that's fantastic. I mean, I had the same. I did the 48-hour film festival with my son, Connor, almost 2 years ago now. And you think, oh, yeah, it's just so many other people make films, and you just realize there's so much more involved. But you're right. Yeah. That feeling at the end when you've made something and you're part of it, it's double bonus, isn't it?
Yeah,
That's fantastic.
It was great. It was really good. I think I don't know if you not to move on as such, but I just kind of want to, if there are actors listening, if there are actors listening, for the actors listening, I want to touch on a little bit around my conversation with George about type. And even though I have said all I was getting was auditions for tradies and labourers, obviously that was my type and what people saw me as in Australia. If I was getting cast in those regularly and making money from it and able to show that I could act, it would have been a different story, but I wasn't actually being cast. He said something, and he spoke about something which I thought was really interesting, which was basically around the fact that we make judgments on who people are based on what they look like and the type of roles that they might be believable in. And you know, for those single people out there that scroll through Tinder or Hinge or dating apps, we do it. We look at someone's profile picture and go, nah, because we make an immediate assumption of the type of person that they are. And there's so much, I think there's so much negativity around being typecast, especially when we're starting out as actors, which was what I was concerned about originally. It's like, I don't want to be typecast in the gay role. Like, fuck it. If I kept being cast in gay roles and getting constant work, I would not give a flying fuck if I was typecast. And I think that actors need to not be afraid of being typecast. I think we need to like lean into who we are and what casting or what people see us as, and prove ourselves in that. And then eventually you'll have worked for long enough or been in enough roles that you'll be able to show or be trusted to be like, look, I can do this serious role, or I can do this thing. So I think, I don't know, I just wanted to kind of touch on that a little bit.
No, I like it. I mean, as I say, work is work too. But Damon Herriman once said that he was getting the same roles. He was cast over, and then he said one day, "No, I'm not doing that one, and I want to go complete opposite." But he can when he's at his level. So
exactly.
You're right. I can't say what I was getting cast in because it alludes to what my real job is, and I don't put that on. I'm not allowed to talk about it, unfortunately. But I was always getting cast in those roles, and again, I thought, I got into acting so I could do something different, not what I did every day. But you can't knock back a paid job, so no. It's correct. I just want to quickly go one thing there when you're talking about the gay community acting and stuff like that. What's your thoughts on now that diversity is so much better in TV? So we've got so much more coverage of different races and sexualities and gender types and everything like that. Do you think those roles can still be played by actors? So can a heterosexual male still play the gay man, and can a normal male play a transgender man, or should we be leaning towards having those actors do those roles?
This is such a
big question,
controversial topic, and I'm going to. I do and I don't know where I stand on this. So ultimately, acting is acting. Like, we're there to play a part. When it comes to race, obviously,
of course,
there should be that race playing the particular race that is required for that part. I don't want to delve too much into what the state of the world is now with diversity, because it's interesting because I interviewed a guy, an Aussie guy who lives in LA now, Lee Shorten, last year, and he made a really interesting comment. And he's like, the diversity casting has actually been bad for me, because I remember. He was like, before I was being offered auditions for anything that was Asian, but now I will only get auditions for the specific race that I am.
Okay.
So that's some of the downside of it. But it comes to, I don't want to go all the way down to the diversity thing, but I will talk about.
No, that's cool.
I will talk about the gay and straight thing, and I'm going to contradict myself a little bit. As a gay man, I don't want someone to say that I can't play a straight man, a straight role. I want to have that opportunity. As a gay actor, when it comes to gay parts, there are so few gay parts written that I don't think it's fair that those parts go to heterosexual actors, because they're not. There just isn't that many opportunities for gay actors.
Fair enough.
Well, there aren't that many gay roles. So there's a part of me that feels like they should be offered to homosexual actors. As long as, I mean, I don't know. It's hard. Like I just watched.
I didn't mean to throw.
No, you
didn't mean to throw such a big question,
because it's a conversation that I purposely kind of like stay out of on social media, because like there are so many people that that have opinion on it. Because, you know, on one hand, I am of the opinion like acting is acting. You should be able to play any role. And it shouldn't really matter. I just watched a beautiful film this weekend, Supernova, with Colin Firth and Stanley Tucci, which is about a gay couple who've been together for like 30 years. And they were phenomenal. Like, they were absolutely outstanding performances. And, you know, I don't know that anybody else could have done as wonderful a job as them. It's just a hard one, because, you know, there's just so little gay films or stories out there. Like, even when I was doing mine, because it's an LGBT one, like I put some casting notices out in Facebook groups, and some guy commented saying, I don't know why you're wasting your time making a gay film. No one's going to buy it. There's like, nobody buys gay films. I'm like, well, I'm not making it for it to sell it, but that's the reality. And I think this is the hard part, right? Because even though we as actors, we're in it for the passion of acting, but after that, movie making, TV making, plays, it's a business. Everybody else is out there to make money. And the reality is, you know, certain things do not sell. But that's why it's like, well, if there's so limited gay stories, that I feel like gay people should be given the opportunity to play those parts over heterosexual people.
Fair enough.
Because the number of heterosexual stories that are out there are, you know,
dime a dozen. And that being said, I mean, I know you used the word that it was a gay story, a gay movie, but at the end of the day, your movie was a story.
Well, yeah, sorry.
That's, isn't it? And that's what I like to see, is that at the end of the day, every movie is a story, and it doesn't matter who's in that story. It's still a story about one person, two persons, a group of people who go from journey from start to the end of the story.
Yeah.
So,
I will say my film is, while I'm saying it's a gay story, it is not a gay story. It's a universal story. It is about someone who had a date with someone and was ghosted and never heard from them again. Everybody has had that happen to them.
Yes.
Sorry, every person that is not in a very long-term committed relationship and whatever. Most people have experienced being ghosted. I think that was the other thing that was really important to me when I was making a film, is, as much as I'm talking about there's not enough gay stories, majority of a lot of the gay stories or LGBT stories that are made are about the struggle of being gay, whether it was so difficult for me coming out, or the HIV epidemic, or whatever. So many gay stories that actually do make it into the world are so focused on being gay that most heterosexual people can't relate to it. They can't see themselves in that situation because it's very specific to a homosexual lifestyle. So it was really important for me to make a story that is not about being gay. It just is a story that happens to have gay people as the protagonists.
Awesome. I love it. And as soon as it's available, I will certainly try and catch it. So you're still in the festivals, is that correct?
I am, yeah. I think I'm going to have a look very quickly. I'm going to click around. I think I made it into an Adelaide festival.
Well, there you go.
But I think
that's showing my research skills didn't go very well there.
I think it's done now, though.
Okay.
I'm just trying to remember. Was it this one? Yeah, it made it into the Launch Film Festival, which was in November.
Oh, there you go. I must have missed that one. My bad.
That's okay.
I'll certainly. And how did it go in the Launch Festival?
It was just, I just got a, it was selected. So I haven't won any award. I haven't won any awards for Ghosted. I have I've been a finalist and a semi-finalist. I got a honorable mention in one festival for Best Original Story, and I was a finalist as Best Performer for Best Performance for my performance in it.
And that's why you do it. That's fantastic.
That's why I do it.
That's fantastic. Well, congratulations on that, Danny. So
thank you.
I'm mindful of the time, so I've got just one last question to throw at you before we sign off. And bringing it right back to acting. So what 3 things would you consider to be pivotal for an actor in becoming successful or improving in their career to making it? To pitch the name of your podcast.
Yeah, sure. Resilience. I think resilience is super important in this industry. So many people give up because they haven't, quote unquote, made it within a particular time that they might have given themselves. I mean, you can look at some of our wonderful Australian late bloomer actors out there who, if they hadn't have persisted, would probably, actually not even just Australian, so many actors would not have made it to in the way that we know them if they hadn't been persistent. If they hadn't been resilient to the no's throughout the industry. I think keeping the muscle warm, you know, just do weekly seeing classes or do self-tapes. It doesn't cost anything to sit in front of a camera, in front of your phone and learn a script and just film it. You don't have to go to a class. You don't have to go and work with other people. You can just work on your craft on your own. I think, you know, as I said before, I don't believe that you have to not have anything else in your life and only do acting, but you can work on your craft on your own in your room with a script.
Definitely.
And I think, the other thing would be to be kind to yourself, to take breaks, to not put pressure on yourself that you have to be achieving certain things by certain times. And that kind of leads into, that works in with all of the mental health stuff. I think we live in a world where we're indoctrinated to be, I think we might have talked about this on my podcast. We live in a world where we're indoctrinated to have achieved things in a certain period of our life, or, you know, we watch definitely American programs, but watch a lot of programs where it's like, you have to work really, really fucking hard if you want to achieve something. Like, you can't take your foot off the gas. Like, this is a marathon, not a sprint. Take the foot off the gas. If you need to take 6 months or a year away from acting to get your head in the game and to just take a break and be kind to yourself, take the breaks. You don't have to be going a bull at a gate 100% of the time, because you'll burn out, you'll hate it, and then you've just lost the joy.
And that's the perfect way to end the podcast. I love that. The acting's always going to be there for you, unless, according to one podcast I listened to yesterday, AI takes over and actors are out of jobs, but hopefully we don't go down that path. So, Daddy, thank you very much. Thank you very much. It's great to see you again on the screen, and congratulations on everything that's happened since you've moved back to the UK. I wish you all the best with everything that's going on.
Thank you so much.
Do you have any final words you'd like to say to everyone before we sign off?
just keep at it, guys. It's, as I said, it's a marathon, not a sprint. It's, if you love it and it brings you joy, it will all, just keep going.
Awesome. Thank you very much. Nice to see you, Danny, and we'll talk to you soon.
You will. Have a lovely afternoon. No, night. Sleep.
I'm going to bed.
Fair.
Thank you very much. See you later.
Thank you. Bye.
You have been listening to the Late Bloomer Actor Podcast. Please like and subscribe on your podcast platform and share amongst your friends and social media. The podcast has been recorded via Riverside FM. Check the show notes for a link. A big shout out to stagemilk.com for keeping me fresh on my acting journey. And finally, the music within the intro and outro was written and composed by Aidan Hendry. See you all on set.